2000s. One was 2006, the other one I'm not sure, but just around in between 2005 and 2007, I would say. But I don't know which one to start first. I'll just do the short one first. So my one friend, he's like just a friend from high school, recording guy. Actually like records some like big bands now, but was on his little boat on Lake Huron there, and it was, I think he said nighttime, and or like getting dark. I'm not 100% sure. I could easily clarify that though, but since it wasn't my experience, I cannot right now. But anyways, so he's on his boat on Lake Huron, and basically he's seen like some weird wave, and then everything got still, and then he saw this light coming down from below, and it actually came up, rose out of the water, and went into the sky. I don't know if it shot off. I can't remember how he described it, but he said he didn't even realize it was real until the little wave from it coming out of the water hit his boat and made him sway a little bit while he was like sitting there, standing there watching it. And then that's when he like snapped out of it of like, whoa, I just seen that. It was like, so like he saw some light coming from below the water, and that light got brighter and brighter, came up, shot out of the water, or came out of the water up into the sky, and then the wave from its supposedly physical traversing through from the water to the above the water, the wave it made, the motion kind of snapped him out of it and made him realize like, yo, I just actually seen that was real, because like the wave, like it was like super still before. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. Visually, that's like the craziest one I pretty much can imagine. Oh, I forgot about one of mine on Lake Huron, dude. Dude, all right, I'm gonna skip my one friend's. His, I can see across the street right now where my, oh man, which one should I do? So this is actually where the other one took place, like right up in here, just across that road, right over there, across that road. And so like, oh man, I'll just jump to that one real quick. So my one friend in high school, it was actually our senior year, and it was like a Monday, and the teacher asked, "So what do you guys do over the weekend?" Blah blah blah. And my one friend does. He told me his UFO story as class was starting. He was freaked out, and I was like the only dude that would listen. And it was crazy, the story. Oh, it's just a little bit too long for me right now. Oh my gosh. So I make him tell it in front of the class, and the teacher is like, "Hey, does anyone have anything?" I'm like, Chris. And he was like, dude, he told it, and everyone basically just dismissed it. And he's like, "See, I told you I didn't want." And I was like, wow, dude, like no one's even on the same wavelength. So anyways, like he said he was driving. So basically his ex-girlfriend is my neighbor across the street, and he was dating her at the time, and he was on the phone with her, and he's driving. So her house is like right through the trees. He lives like 6 miles down that road, or four. He used to, and 4 or 5 miles. I'm not sure. Six maybe tops, but straight line basically on an intersection of another road. And dude, he saw the UFO through the trees while he's on the phone with her, driving to his house. He gets to his house. He sees it in the house, and it actually started. He's watching it through the window. It went over his house, so he follows it to the one side, and he seen it, and then it went back over the way it came. So he walked back. I think he said he did that like 2 or 3 times, where it was like going back and forth over the house. And they said he heard a thud, and the dog went nuts and like was freaking out. And then he was freaking out, and he was like, "Dude, I'm out of here." So I wouldn't have done this, but he put the dog in the garage and left and went to his girlfriend's, and he was on the phone with her the whole time. And he didn't. So it's about a 5 minute drive, because it's like 4 or 5 miles away down the back roads. And when he got to her, as he was getting to her house, she was on the phone with him, and she had the neighbors and her family outside, and they were all watching what he just described, which I sadly can't remember what it physically looked like, if it was a light or if it was something that was like more solid. But I think it wasn't nighttime. I think it was dusk by the time he got back to his girlfriend's. And I think the whole experience lasted about like around like a half an hour or something. But I thought that was like one of the crazier ones because it was one so long it followed him. It went back and forth over his house specifically. There was multiple witnesses because they were all when he was coming back when he left. Put the dog. The dog started barking after he heard his thud on the roof. Puts the dog in the garage. He gets out of there. He goes to the girlfriend's house. But there, so he's 6 miles in from the lake or 5 miles in, and we're only a mile in off Lake Huron, and you can pretty much like see like this, I don't know, the sky right over the lake. You just can't see the water because it's down a little bit. But they were like watching what he described on the phone in the air. Her family, his girlfriend, and her neighbors came out and they were all watching it. And when he got there or just before he got there, it just shot off and zipped out super fast. I believe south actually, towards like Detroit. But so that was crazy. And the one I've had on that lake, I'll just throw this one in there, the black ferrofluid shape-shifting UFO that looked like it was kind of like a fast-moving garbage bag just going like crazy. And interesting because the one in Detroit that I saw with the like 12 people on the roof at the shop, there was like 10 or 12 people up there. Everyone thought it was like a small plastic bag, and then it ended up going in between these two buildings like 8 blocks away and covering up like multiple windows of a huge building. I'm like, yeah, that thing's like the size of like a dump truck or something, guys. Like, but that looked like a garbage bag, but it was moving more like a slow parade float. And this one on the main road was like moving like a super fast garbage bag, but it looked just like ferrofluid, and it never deviated from the car. We're going 55 miles per hour on the road along Lake Huron, never deviated the distance, and it was on a blue sky and it was all black. It was so obvious, and my two friends couldn't even look at it because they were like, their consciousness was literally like overridden. The one guy's like a microbiologist, like not world renowned, but he's like top tier, like just because you can't get. And you know what's crazy? A lot of microbiologists ends up getting taken out and dying super mysterious, sketchy deaths and everything, and everyone knows that they're getting taken out. So that's crazy. But the other one on Lake Huron, this was the most recent one. It must have just been like a year and a half ago or something. I was out there with a drummer buddy. He actually became paralyzed, like mostly paralyzed, and we got him a small drum. I told people, yo, bring a drum to his hospital, let him drum, let him get those fingers going. And so my paralyzed friend in the hospital, when we got him a drum, he isn't paralyzed anymore. So he came and visited me. We're drumming on Lake Huron at night, and it's like a big windstorm. The waves are crashing. We're about like 30 feet above the water on this like bluff. Dude, it was such a crazy cool scene. And one of my best drumming experiences actually was out there, and it was a huge lightning storm, and the lightning was hitting the water at night, and it was just looked crazy. I was drumming like with these 3 African like really nice tone drums, like but like that's the one drum that I was drumming on. So we're drumming, and we get done. It's really connected, and we get done. We're talking, and light. This is like right with the black ferrofluid UFO. This is like the same area, the same road, and everything, and about a 7-year difference or something. But we're drumming, dude, and we get done. And I'm talking to him, and I see the ground behind him light up like the grass. I see a beam of light, a light going through and making little shadows from like the ground, like the little grass shadows. And you know what I thought? I thought it was maybe a car coming down the road, obviously. So I look right real quick. There's only one road. The lake's on the other side. There's like no, and it is no car there. There's no car there. And this light, it's coming from above. I look back and I instantly whip my head up, dude. Like when I look back at the ground and seeing like where the light was, I was like, dude, there's no other spatial direction that this can be coming from. unless literally the ground's opening up and lights coming out of there. But my instinct was to look straight up, and I looked right up, dude. And I was like, oh my gosh, we gotta get out of here, because the ground behind you just lit up. And I looked over to see if a car's coming. There's no car, obviously. So how'd that ground light up? My next I was like, you see me just look up, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, because where else would it come from? And he's like, oh. And I was like, yeah. So like we got out of there, and as we're crossing the road, so we're about, I don't know, just like a 1/10 of a mile away from my friend's house or something like that. Not too far, like an 1/8 of a mile, just like a few football fields away from her house. She lives pretty close to the lake. She's like, anyways, so we're walking across the road. No, we're getting close to approaching crossing the road, and I see what I think are shoulders and a head silhouette freaking run across the road. And I'm like, okay, that. And you know what I did? I kind of like did like a little jolt where I kind of like half stopped. I like dropped down like in a defensive stance, almost like basketball or athletic stance, like something, a natural stance instantaneously. I made a guttural sound. I was like, ooh! I dropped a little bit.